Welcome to the Transform with Vance podcast, where transformations begin every day, and I am your host, Vance Hines. So let's get started. All right, this is Vance Hines, and I'm here with another DDPY success story, Rob Ramsey. How are you, Rob?
I'm doing great, Vance. How are you today?
Shit, I can't complain. I can't complain. I can tell you if the technology gods lets us get this thing done, I'll be amazed. It's been
Don't
an
count on me for any
unbelievable.
technological tips, brother.
Oh man, it's been an unbelievable struggle. You waited what 2 hours yesterday and an hour today. Shit, it's been
That's
a
no
struggle,
worries.
dude.
No worries whatsoever.
My
I'm just glad to be able
apologies.
to. I'm just glad to be able to put the story out there, and hopefully, more and more people become wise to DDPY and know that, hey, man, there is a recovery out there that is, it's medicine free. And I'm talking not just opiates, man. I'm talking like you can get it down to ibuprofen free, Tylenol free. You can live a life without the pharmaceuticals in your life.
Yeah, I don't think I've gone a podcast without saying this. I truly believe that it's the closest thing to the fountain of youth we're going to see in our lifetime.
And absolutely, I mean, as kids, we I think once we get past a certain age, we forget about the fact that how good we felt when our bodies were moving constantly. I don't know about you, but I was an athlete in high school, and I played a little college ball. Uh, you know, those times when our body was constantly moving, we felt our best. And then, as you know, even when I went to the military, when I was constantly on the move in the military, my body felt its best. But when you start neglecting your body, that's when the bad shit starts to happen.
I take notes to remind me to ask you things as we go along. I'm not looking away. So if you see me
No,
doing
that's
this,
cool.
I'm taking notes over here. So, hey,
No issues, brother.
what I've done with the other guys is, guys and ladies, men and women, is that I ask them just kind of a general question first, just to kind of to tell people why you're a DDPY success story. Just to kind of give them a general idea of why DDP yoga has transformed your life, and then I start picking you apart and going through your whole life.
Absolutely, bring it on, brother.
So why should someone listen to this podcast? Why are you a DDPY success story?
Um, it goes this My story goes all the way back to 2001, where I had a severe spinal injury at work. And during that period, I actually was able to continue to work for about 10 years after my spinal injury. But with my spinal injury, I ruptured three discs, L1, L2, L2, L3, L3, L4. And when I ruptured those three discs, I I also was blessed with this drop foot in my right leg. And basically, what drop foot is you lose control of the function of your foot. And in my case, mine was extreme. I'm basically paralyzed from mid calf down. So there's there's the injury, and then there's the side effects. And uh, like I said, I was working for about 10 years after I had my accident because they put me on an extreme amount of opiates. Uh, they started me off with Percocet, and we went from Percocet to a few years later, they put me on fentanyl. And we all know that the different things that how bad fentanyl has affected our society, and how dangerous it is, and I'm no exception. Even though mine was prescription, I I use fentanyl every day for over 17 years. Uh, the last 7 years of the opiate addiction, I spent basically on my couch. I I lost a lot of desire to live. I lost a lot of I lost a lot of attention to life, where I no longer, I wasn't passionate about anything, and that means everything to including my family. I mean, I was basically just, a guy who sat on the couch and slept on the couch and ate on the couch, and that was it. That was my existence. Um, Only time I really ever got up off of the couch was to either do one of two things. I was either going to the restroom and I was using a walker or a cane, or I was going to a doctor's appointment. And that's the only time I ever got up. I mean, I was a prisoner in my own home. And, uh, you know, it all kind of came full circle for me um, when I saw Dallas on the Joe Rogan podcast. And I know a lot of people say the same thing, but, it's true. And I was actually a bigger fan of Joe Rogan than I was Dallas, uh, because I just enjoyed his podcast. I knew who Dallas was because of his wrestling days, and I used to watch wrestling with the kids and so forth. But we 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 played his wrestling games on Nintendo and stuff like that, and had a great time doing that. But anyway, I saw that all about the same time. Some other things were happening in my life. I I was continuing to see what they call a pain management doctor. The state of Ohio made it mandatory that if you're on a certain amount of opiates, you had to go to a pain management doctor. And so I got sent there, and the first day I was in that guy's office, he took me off of Percocet and put me on Oxy 30s for breakthrough pain, and he doubled my dose of fentanyl. I went from 125 micrograms to 250 micrograms. So I was just zonked out of my head all the time. And right right after I went to see the pain management doctor, because this was an accident that happened at work, the BWC makes it mandatory that you have to see one of their doctors once a year, every year, just to make sure that you're on the up and up and you're not faking an injury and all. You know how that goes. So I went to see their doctor, and he saw what was going on with this pain management doctor, and he told me, the BWC doctor actually told me, he said, "Look, man, you're killing yourself. You don't see it, but you're dying, and you need to get off of this stuff. And you probably don't realize it. You probably don't know this, but the opiates are amplifying your pain. You got to do something to get off of this medicine, or you're gonna wake up dead one day." As corny as that sounds, but that's what's going to happen to you. So all that happened about the same time I saw the Joe Rogan episode, and then one day I went down to a few weeks later I went down for my monthly appointment with the pain management doctor, and I started telling him about, hey, this other doctor said this and this other doctor said that, and that offended him. And I was telling him, hey, the opiates aren't working. What else can we try? And we got into an argument in his office, and he kicked me out of his practice. And that's the best thing that ever happened to me, because that was the first step in getting off the opiates. So basically, what happened was I went to see, trying to find another pain management doctor once you're already in the opiate circle is really kind of difficult, because if you get kicked out of a practice, the first thing you're going to think is, well, you were abusing your medication. So I went to see my family doctor, and she told me that the best thing she could do for me is just try to step me down. but she couldn't match the dose that I was already on. So a few weeks after she put me on some step-down medicine, I saw Dallas on the Joe Rogan episode, and things kind of started clicking for me. And I checked myself into a rehab facility on September 18th, 2018. And I did 5 to 6 days of detox, and then I checked myself out, and I haven't touched an opiate ever since. I've been clean and sober ever since that day. So
That's
January, let's fast forward a couple of months from September to January. I saw the podcast, and I just kept checking out this DDPY stuff and thinking, man, this sounds like a pretty good deal. And I signed up January 2nd and been doing it every day ever since.
that's awesome, man. Signed up January 2nd, 2019.
Yes.
So you got 3 years of DDPY under your belt.
Right at 3 years. Yeah.
That's awesome, man.
And you know what? At first I didn't really think that I was seeing a lot of improvement, but it's kind of like taking the layers off of an onion. You got to peel it back just a little bit at a time, a little bit, and a little bit, and then gradually you start to feel, the effects of what you're doing, and then the people around you start to notice the effects of what you're doing, and once you get that ball rolling, momentum's a hard thing to hold back. So I started getting stronger, started standing up more, started using within 60 days I was off of the walker, only using a cane, and I want to say 120 days I was cane free. I was walking on my own power everywhere I went. I no longer had to worry about things such as looking for a handicap spot to park, or how far I was going to have to walk once I got into a parking lot, because I knew that I could stand on my own 2 feet, and that was a game changer. Once I got that into my brain that, hey man, you can live again, you can start functioning again. That's when everything just kind of came full circle for me.
That's awesome, man.
My everyday pain levels, Vance, were a 7, 8, 9 prior to DDPY. Once I got to a certain part in DDPY, the pain levels dropped drastically. I no longer went from a 7, 8, 9. It became a 5 or 6, and then a 4 or 5, and now today I'm down to a very livable 2 or 3. Now, I'm not going to try to lie to anybody out there and tell them that I'm completely pain free. I'm not. But I mean, I'm fused L1 to S1. I've had 7 spinal surgeries. I've dropped foot in my right leg. My right side of my body was completely atrophied from the injury, and it took me a while to build the muscle back up in that right side of my body. It wasn't just my right leg. It was my right shoulder, my right chest, my right arm, tricep, bicep. The entire right side of my body was completely atrophied. And with this program, I'm getting that strength back.
You're definitely a DDPY success story. There's no doubt about it, man. Um,
Uh, cool thing about it is, I do Pages. I do Red Hot Core and Pages live core workout, uh, 5, 6 days a week. And at 61 years old, and I'm not trying to brag, but I've got a set of abs. You know, I went from a I went from a guy that was no longer interested in living life to I'm out there playing with my grandkids. I go to the pool with my wife. I'm living again. And I think that's the bottom line here. And I want other people to know that, hey, there is there's an answer. And all you got to do is be willing to do the work, and you'll get the answer that you're looking for. It's not in drugs, it's not in snake oil. It's in work. You got to work your body. You got to get back into what is going to actually cure you.
Uh,
That's the bottom line.
Absolutely, brother. Absolutely. And either one of those workouts, the Red Hot Core or the Pages Core, man, neither one of those workouts are a joke. Both of them kick your ass.
Oh yeah, absolutely. They will kick your ass. I really enjoy Pages because she does the all three levels of your core. She doesn't just do the front abs. She does the obliques. She does the pelvic floor. She does the back of your core. I mean, she works the entire thing, and I really like that because for me, for somebody who has a back injury, uh, and here's the cool thing. I want to share this with you too. But getting back to my point, her routine is so cool about overall core, which most people when they think core, they think just the abs that you see in the front, and that's not true. Your core is completely wrapped around you, completely surrounds your spine, and she knows how to work that because she's broken her back a few times. So how could you not get better advice from somebody who's come back and beat that? But crap, I forget what I was going to tell you. But
Well,
anyway,
I suffer from that from that issue too. That's CRS. You can't remember shit. So, but
oh no, I got it. I
all
remember what I was
right,
going to tell
all
you.
right.
And this is cool. And I just got this because I started doing Page's Core. Um, One of the cool things is from my back injury and from my spinal surgeries, I have a tendency to lean over when I walk. And within, I don't know, when I want to say the last 45 days, I'm walking up right now. So, there's another plus for why you got to do the work,
Very cool.
you know, because bending over like that while you walk as you get older, that's how osteoporosis sets in.
Well, I don't know how much of my story you know, but we have a common beginning in that I started trying to get better from watching the Joe Rogan podcast. It was Bert. They did Sober October, and this was back in I think 2017, and it was in November after that I saw Bert run a half marathon. And I said, well, hell, there's something I can do. If Bert can do that, after that sobered October and run a half marathon in 2 weeks' notice, there's something I can do. So both of us have our beginnings from the Joe Rogan podcast. That's pretty cool, man.
I hold on to that dearly. And people who ask me, because I get people reach out all the time with injuries that ask me about my beginnings, how I did this, how I did that, and I always refer back to Joe Rogan and how it sparked it sparked my whole comeback. And you're never too old to come back.
No.
You're not. You might think you are, but you're not. You can do anything. What does Dallas like to say? That's uh, the greatest 6 inches that you own
Yeah.
is that landscape between your ears. Because if you tell yourself you can do something, that's half the battle. If you believe that you can't, you're going into a losing battle. And so I really try to use that philosophy whenever I try to, I set a goal for myself, which I was sharing with you yesterday, and and you kind of caught me off guard, but we both seem to have a passion for bike riding, and I was telling you that I I made a goal for myself to ride 100 miles this past year, and I achieved that goal. And you told me that you had done that, and I was like, man, that's awesome. That's absolutely awesome. Uh, Bike riding is I'm very passionate about bike riding. Uh, to me, it's not work. It's enjoyment. It's how I feed my soul. You know, it's how I get free. I notice the birds and the flowers and the ocean and everything around me, and I enjoy it. Uh,
That there's
and
I did the hotter than hell 100. I did the 100 miler, and I can tell you I don't have the passion for it you got. I won't do it again. But the my little brother was big into it a while, and he said the hardest one he did is there's one down there that's fairly, for Texas anyway, fairly close to you. It's called it's something on the coast. It's but they do like, I don't know, it's like 60 or 70 miles. But he said, it's around Port Aransas and Corpus Christi. You start in Corpus Christi and you
uh-huh.
come up the roads, and then I think you come back down that beach road down the islands. And he said when you're coming down that beach road, that that last 30 or 40 miles, it's all into the headwind, and it's just killer. But he said I forget, it's something on the coast. They do it every year, and he said that's the hardest ride that he ever did. And they start and end, I think, in Corpus Christi. I can't remember the name of it, but I wasn't about to try to do that one. I can tell you, you ought to do that one, man.
I'll look it up. I'll take your time. So, I talk about headwinds, man. The only thing I don't like, well, I can't say I dislike it, but the the only thing that I find challenging down here is there is a lot of headwind uh, coming off the ocean, the Gulf of Mexico. I mean, it's nothing to see, gusts of 30, 40, 45 miles an hour. And then just like that, they'll be gone. But yeah, I definitely get what you're talking about with that headwind, man. That's not a
Mm.
joke. It's no joke at all. I mean, you figure you're riding your bike somewhere, I don't know, somewhere between 12 to 20 miles an hour, and you hit that headwind, man. That's taking you. You got to use twice as much power to get half as far, if that makes any sense.
Yeah,
So
it's
yeah,
crazy.
headwind is no joke.
All right, well, let me walk you through your let me walk you through your life. So, where did you grow up? What's home for you?
Actually, my family and I, we grew up in a suburb of Denver, Colorado. A little, well, it's not a little town. It's a city called Arvada, Colorado. My dad worked at the Rocky Flats uranium enrichment plant in Golden, and in the mid to late 70s, they started cutting back on uranium enrichment. And so my mother and father were both from Ohio, and my mother got the bright idea that, hey, let's move our family from Colorado, where the mountains are beautiful, to the Appalachian Valley in Ohio. And so we made that move. I think it was in 1975, 75 or 76. And you talk about rebellion as a young teenager. My brother and I, we weren't very happy with having to move from Colorado to Ohio.
Yeah. Now, wait a minute. I want to. I got to
So
ask you some questions. I have never known anybody
sure.
that works for a uranium enrichment plant. And so what did your father do there? I mean, I picture something like Homer, something on The Simpsons. But what did your father do
Uh,
at the uranium enrichment plant?
my dad was a brilliant man. He was a chemical engineer, uh, and although working for the government like that, he was never actually allowed to really tell us what he did for a living. But he was one of the people who took uranium and enriched it, and where it became plutonium. And he was also one of the people that was exposed to beryllium uh, back in the 80s when the government finally owned that fact and said, hey, yeah, these people did that, you know. And he he was exposed to enough of it where one day his heart was normal size, next day it exploded.
Really?
Uh, so yeah, that you know,
How old was he?
as an adult, my dad was 58 years old when he passed, and of course, and I'm sure your parents were probably the same way. My mom and dad, they didn't take care of themselves when they were when they were younger. They didn't exercise. They didn't my dad drank beer every day, just like every other redneck American man did back in then. But uh, you
I
know,
hope Coors up there
it
in
was
near Golden. I hope it was Coors.
yeah, yeah. He liked his Rocky Mountain spring water. And I got a funny story about Coors. Uh, my brother and I, on my 40th birthday, my wife and my brother's wife, they sent us out to Colorado, back to Colorado, to just go visit the old neighborhood and spend a little time there. And we did. We did everything that we did with my father as children. Like we went to Red Rocks, we went to the Royal Gorge, we went up to Buffalo Bill's grave, uh, all that stuff that he did with us as kids. And one of the things that we did was yearly or every other year, my uncle from Ohio used to come out and visit. And then on the off years we would go back to Ohio. Well, every year when he would come out, my father and my uncle, they used to go up to the Coors Brewery. So my brother and I thought, man, let's do this. Let's go up to Coors Brewery, and we probably drank a little more beer than we should have before we got back in the vehicle and drove. But nothing bad happened. But yeah, we went out there, and then I don't know if they still do this, but they have a hospitality room, and you can sample as much beer as you can sample as long as you don't show your rear end. And so we had a pretty good time. We sampled quite a few beers.
I'm surprised they got any room for people to get in there if they just let you come all the time and sample beer.
Well, the trick is you got to take the full tour of the brewery, and you can't sample until after you. So and I'm not even sure they still do that anymore. With the liabilities and everything, with the way things are. But yeah, that was pretty cool. We did that, uh, and we had a good time.
So you moved to Ohio. That I'm still interested in uranium enrichment. You got any idea how he did that or how he turned it into
Oh no,
plutonium?
no, I really haven't any idea. Uh, the only thing I really know is, especially from when we lived in Colorado, I didn't really know that much about it because I was so young at that point. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
that was back when we moved out of there when I was 13 to Ohio. So I really didn't know anything about it. But in Ohio, in Piketon, Ohio, where we moved to, uh, that was the Goodyear uranium enrichment plant, and that place is just glowing. It's so bad that they ended up shutting it down, and there's a big stink about. They want to turn it into a place where people bring their toxic waste and take it there as a dump. And the local people, which I don't blame them, they're up in arms about it. One of the school, one of the not elementary, I'm sorry, the junior high that I attended actually shut down about 2 years ago because they had they the uranium poisoning was so bad that they had a detector that if it got out into the air, that it would detect it, and the alarm went off one day, and they had to empty the school because it had, it had floated up into the air and got into the school system. And to
So
my knowledge, go ahead.
he continued to do uranium enrichment in Ohio.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Um,
That's what he did.
yeah, that was his thing. So, and what makes me sad is that he was just about ready to retire uh, when he had his heart attack, and uh, and the funny thing about it is that he had just had his physical, and his physical came back, you know, triglycerides were up a little bit, and his cholesterol was up a little bit, and blah blah blah. He's a little overweight, but everything else came back great. And then just like I don't know, maybe 7 days later, I mean, his heart just exploded.
I
And
would I would have suspected cancer. Being around that much uranium and all radiation. I would suspect a lot of them die of cancer, but I
they
didn't
did,
know they did.
they did. There was lots of people that I knew, kids that I went to school with, that their fathers, they all died of cancer. Lots of people in that area that I know, that I still know, that live there. They've had many people that besides the uranium enrichment plant, the only other place that you could really get a job was Mead Paper or Kenworth, and everybody who is associated with the Goodyear enrichment plant, man, several of them died of cancer.
Hmm,
Most of them died of cancer.
that's crazy. So you said you played sports in school. What sports did you play?
Um, Not that I was any good, but I played football and I ran track. My sophomore year of high school, I placed fourth in the 440 and
Damn.
sixth in the 220, and we also captured sixth in the mile relay. But then the following year, I discovered beer and girls, and that was the end of
Yeah,
that.
that's about right. 16. Your interest kind of waned at 16.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, it sure does.
but
So
the
I wish I.
so how fast were you? How fast did you run the 40 and the 100?
You know what? I wasn't very quick. Um, 40, I don't know, maybe 4.8, 4.9. Uh, I ran about a 10.6 100-yard dash. Um, but which they don't run these yardage anymore. It's all meters now, I believe. But
Yeah.
I did the 440, which is the equivalent of the 400 meter. Well, it's actually just a little bit longer. The best I ever did was right at 50 seconds,
Damn.
50.5, I think.
That 440 that's a tough race right there.
Oh yeah, it's
Man.
a sprint all the way around, hard as you can go. Uh, but yeah, it's a good race.
And
I still like to watch a lot of. No, go ahead.
you said you played in college. Where did you play college?
Uh, my my freshman year of college, I went to Wisconsin at Superior. I was on the football team, but you know what? That didn't last very long either. Once again, there was a girl, and she was more important to me, so I quit the football team and went back home. And
Yeah.
biggest mistake of my life, you know.
Well, if you had to quantify all the mistakes in our lives, it's hard to quantify the biggest. There's a lot of mistakes I've made in my life. I can tell you that.
Yeah, well, I'm hoping that I can retain some of this knowledge for my next life, and not go through the struggles that I did in this one. So,
Shit, you can do the exact same thing. Women and beers will get your attention again.
oh, no doubt, no doubt.
All right, man. So, what type of work did you do? What? So you said you're what, 62? Is that what you said?
I'll be
61?
62 in September. I'm 61.
61.
Um, I was I was a member of local union 669, which is sprinkler fitters. We installed and maintained overhead fire protection, fire sprinklers, and actually, and that's how I ended up with my injury was from work. Um, I had just started a new job, and my my boss came out, and I think I was telling you yesterday that my boss came out, and what they
Hey,
used to
no,
do is they would pack.
now wait. Before we get into this, when did you do the military? Let me back you up. Maybe I skipped a phase. Before we get
Oh,
up to your work and injury, when did you go into the military?
I went into the military. I arrived at basic training on March 31st, 1981.
And how old were you?
Uh, I was 21 years old.
21.
Um,
So how long did you
yeah,
serve?
actually, I just did my 3 years and got out. Um, I was in the military at a time of peace, and during a time of peace, the army was actually very boring. We didn't, I mean, there's only so many boots you can shine and maintenance that you can pull on. I was in communications, and so during that time, if you don't have stuff to do, you tend to find stuff to do, and we were ornery, so we was always pushing the limits, and I had some of the I had some of the easiest duty period that you could ever ask for, and I screwed that up. Um, I was uh, I was a communications expert in a military hospital, which they had no need for. So I was in charge of me, which was a mistake. I was just, you know, don't give me the keys to the kingdom because I'm gonna mess it up. I promise you. Especially at 21 years old when all I was thinking about was girls and beer.
Yeah, that's right.
Uh, and then let's see, I was in Fort Stewart, Georgia. Well, actually, my first duty station was Hunter Army Airfield in Savannah, home of the First and 75th Ranger Battalion. I was detached directly to the Ranger Battalion. Uh, but
Dang.
uh, we got a little carried away from time to time, and I was asked to leave, not discharged, but I was asked to leave, that facility, and so they sent me up to Fort Stewart. And
Now
at
wait a
Fort
minute.
Stewart,
Now wait a
uh,
minute. I figure the Rangers are some of the craziest people on the planet, and you got asked to leave the assignment with the Rangers.
well, now, don't get me wrong, I wasn't a ranger. I was attached to the Ranger Battalion.
Well, I
But yeah,
understand.
those are some crazy bastards. Yeah, yeah, I got asked to leave. Uh,
That's funny.
we did a lot of shenanigans. One of my favorite stories about being in that regiment was we were out in the field and we were supposed to be attacked that night. And myself and a couple of my buddies, we had guard duty that night. So we uh, we were sitting up, we were waiting for the attack to come, and one of my buddies snuck a bottle of Jack Daniels out to the field. And so we started hitting that Jack a little bit, and we got feeling a little brave, and uh, we ran across some guys across the road from us who had simulators, but they didn't have any way to detonate it. And for a simulator, all you need is just an electrical charge. Well, I was the king of communications. So back in the day, I don't know if you're familiar with these, but you remember watching MASH, the show MASH, where they would sit and they'd crank the phone.
Yeah.
Okay, well, what that does is that sends an electrical pulse through the wires, and that's how they know that somebody's trying to ring them up. Well, all you have to do is take that phone, connect it to connect the wire to it, and then we took the simulators and we put it up underneath the tent of our very own officers, and we put it in their tent. Came back across the road. I cranked that bitch up and it went boom. Oh, and then all you had to do was just reel the cord back or the cable back in, and they had no idea where it came from. So All these officers come flying out of their tent. Like, what the hell's going on? We're being attacked. Blah 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 blah. And we're over there just busting out laughing. Well,
So what? Wait a
and
minute.
I'm
So
on guard duty.
yeah. So what's a simulator? I don't understand what a simulator is.
Uh, basically what it does, it's just a very loud firecracker. It simulates that an artillery shell has gone off in your area,
Okay.
but it's just basically a flash and a boom, and nobody can really get hurt from it unless you were actually holding it in your hand. But so anyway, so we reeled that across the road, and we were sitting over there going, trying to keep it down because we're laughing so hard. And about an hour went by, and everybody went back to sleep. So we decided what we were going to do is we were going to attack them again. And so what we did was we took some combo wire. There was three of us. We took some combo wire and we tied it around the tent pegs outside the door to the tent. And me and my buddy, we went inside and we were going to set off our M16s with, they had blank rounds. They'd give you X amount of blank rounds. Nobody ever wanted to fire off their blanks because it has a lot of carbon buildup and it's hard to clean your weapon that way. So anyway, we go over there. We tie the wire across the tent opening, and one of us is sitting outside. One of the guys that was with us, he's sitting outside, and he's supposed to count the bodies. One, two, after we go inside and cause hell, and then he's going to pull that wire, and then everybody behind us is going to go boom, boom, boom. So we do that. We go inside, and we fire off our M16s, and then they're all just like, "What the hell's going on?" Yeah, then they jump up and they start chasing us out the door. And my buddy, he counts one, two, and he pulls that wire. And then you should have seen those guys just tripping all over themselves, just a boom, boom. Oh God! And then I was running through the woods just laughing my ass off. I wasn't hard to find, but they didn't catch us. They didn't catch us. The closest thing they came to catching us was the next morning when we had we had morning breath from drinking a few shots of Jack at night, and I was the commander's Jeep driver, and he said, "Ramsey," he said, "were you drinking beer last night?" I said, "Beer? No, sir, wasn't drinking beer." That's one of my favorite stories. Uh,
Well, I can see why they
so yeah,
made you leave the ranger outfit.
that kind of nonsense right there. Yeah.
Well, now if you were there for 3 years from '81 to '84, didn't we? Wasn't that during Grenada?
It was. It was. And actually, right before that happened, they had enough of my shenanigans and they sent me to Germany. So I didn't go, or I would have. I absolutely would have.
Not that thing lasted very long,
No,
I remember that happened. Now, at some point, was there any of the Iran Contra stuff? When was that? When was all the Iran Contra stuff? When were they doing all that stuff in Central America?
um, wasn't that during the Russians' invasion of Afghanistan?
Shit, I can't
Um,
remember.
so that would have been, oh, that had to happen after I was out. That had to happen
Okay.
after '84.
All right.
But
All right, man.
so
So did you have fun in Germany?
I did. I developed a whole new pattern of drinking beer in Germany. It's, their beer is no joke. It really is not. What we drink here in America, which I don't drink anymore. I've been clean and sober since the 9th of, or I'm sorry, the 18th of September. But anyway, what we consider beer is they actually consider it a almost like a lemonade, and they give it to their children to induce to help them get hungry before a meal. Now, I'm not saying they give them a bunch, but
Yeah.
they give them they give them half a glass of beer to increase their appetite. And so, but the beer over there is a normal beer is like 18% or 21%, something like that. And that it, it takes a little getting used to, but man, oh man, it's it's the equivalent of going from eating McDonald's to going to a steakhouse
Yeah.
every day. I mean, that the quality of the beer is incredible.
Were,
It
were
really
you
is.
over there like in October during our Oktoberfest?
Yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. I went to Oktoberfest a couple times. Well, no, one time, because I was only there about 18 months. But yeah, I went to Oktoberfest. I was in a little town called Bamberg, West Germany, which is just I don't know, maybe 20 minutes from Nuremberg, where the Nuremberg trials were.
Yeah.
Uh, it full of culture. Took a tour there. When you first get there, they introduce you to the culture. They teach you a little bit of German, uh, which helps in speaking to the girls. So, and actually, I ended up I married a girl from over there while I was there, uh, but that didn't last very long. Uh, Turns out, well, I'm not even going to go there.
Well, all right, all right. So you made it out of the army and football injury free. It sounds like.
Uh-huh.
So let's bring you up.
Um,
You, you started to say something?
I was going to say, once I got out of the army, I went back home, uh, and in '84, the economy was pretty bad, and there was really it was tough trying to find a job, even as a vet, because you at that time veterans were brought to the front of the list on hiring, just simply because you served your country, but there just weren't any jobs to be found. I mean, I couldn't buy a job, and one day I ran across one of my old friends' mother, and she was asking me what I was doing, how I was doing, and I was just telling her, things are tough. I can't find a job. And her husband and my friend were actually down in Texas, down in Houston, and that was all during the oil boom. Uh, Brown and Root was working in just about all the refineries down there, and she said, if you like, I can give you their phone number. And she said, I'm positive you could find a job down there. So, so I called him up and talked to my buddy, and he said, "Well, yeah, I'm sure you could get hired tomorrow if you want to start work as soon as you get here. You can come down. We'll get you right to work." And they weren't lying. Once I got there, uh, we spent a couple of days. I went down with my buddy's cousin. We spent a couple of days on the beach before we actually took a job. But same day I went and you know put in an application at the oil refineries. I got hired that day, and it provided a good living. Uh, it got me back up on my feet, made me feel good about myself. Where when you first get out of the military and you're used to being told what to do and how to do it in every fashion, and then you get out and then you don't have anything. It kind of messes with your head a little bit. So, you feel like, hey man, there's something wrong here. I'm not doing what I'm supposed to be doing. So, but I got down there and I went straight to work, and it was great. And I loved Houston. I swore I was never going back to Ohio ever again. I mean, the weather was great. Galveston Island's only what 45 minutes away. It's a beautiful place. And I had a really good time there. And I brought my German wife down there, and we ended up having a daughter together, which I still have a very close relationship with my daughter, but I don't have any relationship with my ex-wife whatsoever.
Is your daughter here or in Germany?
She's here in the States. She's a nurse, a nurse practitioner. She works for Ohio State University.
Wow, that's cool.
Yep, she's a good girl, smart, smarter than her dad.
All right, so we got you up to basically your pop, your sprinkler, your fire protection, fire sprinkler job. So tell us about that and getting hurt and all that. I kind of cut you off, but I didn't want to skip over your service to the country. So
Oh, well, thank you. Uh, when Before I went in the military, I worked for a sprinkler company uh, in their shop, and I was familiar with how to use their tools of their trade, like the machines that you use to thread pipe, uh, and it's not just pipe. There's a lot more into it when it comes to fire protection, and I was very familiar with it. And so when I came down to Texas and was working in the oil refineries, I was a pipe fitter's helper. And one day, I was just looking for a better opportunity, and one of the local sprinkler contractors had an ad in the paper, and I called him up and got an interview and went in and uh, got hired on the spot. It was a non-union contractor, but at the time I really didn't care. I just was more worried and more concerned about making a better living for my family. So we went to work for the sprinkler contractor, and uh, I ran into a guy who was laid off from Alabama and had come to Houston just because Houston was booming, but he was a union fitter, and he wasn't supposed to be working non-union, but he needed to eat, so you can't blame him. Uh, and I had been working for this sprinkler contractor about a year, the non-union contractor, when out of the blue, this guy that I had met that I had been working with for a long time, uh, he said, "Hey, would you be interested in going into the union?" I said, "Well," and as a non-union fitter, you hear a lot of negative things about the union. That why should you have to pay to work, and they're not going to provide you with you're always laid off, stuff like that. Which I later learned that those things aren't true. Uh, but he he was going to go. He had made contact with a local, and they were going to hire him, and they wanted to know, basically, was there anybody that you wanted to bring along with you? And he brought me in. So I got in a local down in Houston, and I went to work for Grinnell Fire Protection. And the great thing about it was, I went, and I didn't realize this, but I went from making like, I think when I was working for the non-union contractor, I was making maybe $8 or $9 an hour, and as an apprentice in the local, I went from $8 or $9 an hour to 13 an hour, and I was like, oh wow, I should have done this a long time ago. As a matter of fact, uh, my father was so proud of me that I had did this. He said, what you're making compared to what I was making at your age is triple. And so, that at that age, I was impressed by that my father was proud of me for doing something like that. So anyway, so I'm down in Texas, and I'm working, and I'm getting thing. I'm in the sprinkler trade, and everything's going well. Uh, and then all of a sudden, and you're a native Texan, aren't you, Vance?
yes.
Uh, you probably remember that around '87, uh, the boom collapsed in Houston,
Hmm.
and the work just dried up. I mean, it was just like flourishing one day, and it just went. It was just no work. Uh,
Yeah.
all these brand new homes that were up there, they were empty. Apartment buildings, apartment complexes, condos, townhomes. I mean, just neighborhoods were just empty. I mean, I'm not talking brand new neighborhoods, beautiful homes. They were empty. It got so bad that vagrants and homeless people started living in these things, and it got bad. Well, uh, at the time, my brother was working for a sprinkler contractor up in Ohio, and he said, "Man, why don't you just come home? I can get you on here." And so, things had bottomed out in Houston, so I just jumped on the train and went back home, and started working in Ohio. And I missed Texas dearly when I first left, and I threatened to go back many, many times, but I also knew that the economy, probably wouldn't support me, and that's probably the only reason I really never went back. I love Texas. Texas is a great place to be. It's it's not just uh, it's not just warm weather. It's a lifestyle, kind of like DDPY is a lifestyle. Living in Texas is a lifestyle. Uh, you either love it or you hate it. There's really no in between. But
Well, now
so anyway,
you did come back to Texas.
I did. Yeah. hmm well,
Now
not as a worker. I came back retired.
you're living now in Port Isabel, Texas, and not many
Yes.
people are going to know where that is. I can tell you are just damn near barely a Texan in Port Isabel. I don't think you can get any further south without being in Texas.
Yeah, that Port Isabel is, if anybody is familiar with the state of Texas shape, Port Isabel is that tiny little molecule right there on the very tip of that toe on the state of Texas. That's where Port Isabel is. It's right across the bridge from South Padre Island, and I love it here. I do. I love it here, and I'll tell you why. Because and when my wife and I retired, we kind of bounced around from place to place, trying to look for a place to land as a retired, a place that would accommodate my back. Florida didn't work for me. Uh, we went to Destin, we went to Florida, Bama, all up and down the coast, but she found Port Isabel, Texas, and what I love about this place so much is that you've got the desert atmosphere, which has beautiful barometric pressure, and but she's got the beach, a mile away. So, it's a beautiful place, and I don't know why more people don't live here, but I'm kind of glad they don't. Uh, but it's got to be one of the best kept secrets in the entire United States. It's just a beautiful place.
I haven't heard many people say Port Isabel Beach, Destin, Florida. So I think I don't know. You better. It must be a well kept secret.
Well, the reason that I like Port Isabel better than Destin, Florida, Destin's kind of an uppity place in my opinion, but it's just how my body reacts to the atmosphere. That's all. Uh,
And
Destin's a
you
beautiful
mentioned the
place.
you mentioned the barometric pressure. Why is that a concern for you?
Uh, for people who don't know, barometric pressure is the pressure that pushes the atmosphere down or away from the earth. And anybody who has arthritis or joint pain or back injuries like mine with the spinal injury, uh, the 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 less barometric pressure becomes. Anytime it gets below 30, I can I'm one of those people who can predict the weather with with my body, because as the barometric pressure gets down, as it gets lower, it increases the pressure on your body, and it creates joint and back pain, body pain. So the higher the barometric pressure, the better off I feel. And I think that's one of the major factors in the difference between Destin, Florida, or Florida, Bama, or any of those coastal places. We checked out New Orleans, but here in Port Isabel, the average barometric pressure is like 30.06. And anytime it's above 30, I'm good to go. Anytime it gets below 30, I'm hurting, which it's a handful of times, but for the most part, the barometric pressure is right where I need it to be. And I think that's real similar to how Arizona is, how Phoenix is, because you have that dry heat. But the one thing that Port Isabel has over top of Phoenix, Arizona, is water.
Hmm.
You got your ocean, so I love it.
Now,
I
now
absolutely love it. Makes me feel good.
it sounds like that you were in the union most of your adult life.
I was. Yeah, I joined local union 669 in, like I said, in Houston, Texas in 1986. And I spent 32 years in the union, and it provided a great living for my family. Uh, Provided me with a wonderful retirement. I still have all of my union insurance. They really take care of their retirees. Uh, it's nothing like what I was told. Like, it's going to be, they're going to, you got to pay to work, and you know, you're always laid off, and their insurance isn't any better than ours, and we got a 401k. Well, you know what? All that stuff was just, it was bunk. It was bullshit. What I received from being a union member is I'm financially, my wife and I are financially taken care of for the rest of our lives because I put the years in, and now I have their retirement, their insurance. You know, they have what they call the equivalent of a 401k. They call it a assist fund, uh, supplemental individual savings, and every paycheck. I think when I started out, I was putting $20 a week into that, and by the time I retired, I believe I was putting over, I want to say over $100 a week in that, and so it adds up. And then it's the entire time you're putting money into that, it's tax free. The only time you have to pay tax on it is when you pull it out, and so you know you take it out in little increments, and you pay your tax on it, but you got a sizable amount of retirement above and beyond what you get as far as retirement goes. I get that. That's separate from the system.
So you are pro union. You support the
I
union.
am. I do. I'm pro union. I have any problem with people who don't want to work union. I mean, if that's your preference, I don't care. That's you. But for me and my family, I will always support the union. Uh, they've provided a great living for me and my family for many, many, many years. Uh, my two sons, they both tried it. They didn't like it. They decided, nah, this isn't the life for me. Uh, you know, but they gave it a shot, and I the they chose not to do that, and so they followed their own path.
Are you involved in like the union management or union politics or any of that stuff?
No, no, I never got into any of that. Uh, that's for the smart guys. All I want to do is just turn a wrench. But I I know that a lot of guys have the aspirations to get involved in the politics of that. For me, no, that's just really not my cup of tea.
All right, let's get up to your injury now. Let's do the injury.
All right, so 2001. Um, my injury was August 27th, 2001. I think like 15 days before 9/11. I'm on a job site, started a new job, and my superintendent comes out to the job site with a material delivery, and the the shop, whenever they would get pipe or material manufactured, they would stuff it into these burlap bags as much as they possibly could to bring it out to the job site, so you had a way to carry it. And so he brings out this material, and the first bag I pick up out of the back of his truck was, you couldn't have got one more piece of pipe inside that bag. And I asked my boss, I said, "Man, you couldn't find something else to put in this bag?" And of course his response was, just just pick up the damn bag and do your job. Shut up. I don't, I don't want to hear the labor pains. I just want to see the baby, kind of thing. So I pick his bag up, and I walk 5, maybe 6 steps, and my back goes pop, 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 and I ruptured 3 discs in my back, in my vertebrae, um, and right at that moment when the last vertebrae popped, I immediately lost control of my right foot, and I didn't really realize what was happening at the moment, and I wished I would have, but I didn't. And the contractor that I was working for, they took really good care of me while I was injured. Uh, During the whole process, uh, they continued to have me. I was a foreman. I ran work. They continued to have me run work, and they said, "Don't do anything. Just tell the guys what to do. Don't pull wrenches. Don't unload this. Don't do that. Don't, just go there." And that's what I did for about 6 months. But what I, in actuality, was doing was I was actually hurting myself. I should have been fighting more for my rights as an injured worker, or I should have been off my feet than as opposed to worrying about, continued to getting paid that weekly paycheck. So finally, the paperwork was approved to have the surgery, and I had no idea what actually was going to happen when they told me that they were going to when they're going to fuse my back L1 to L1, L2, L2, L3, L3, L4. I had no idea what was really going to happen. But all I knew was I was in a lot of pain, and I wanted it to be fixed. So eventually, they put me in the hospital. They did the first spinal fusion on me, and the night that I just got out of recovery from the spinal fusion, uh, the first tornado in Columbus history in like 20 or 25 years had touched down, and the orderly came in there to my room and said, "Hey man, you got to get up. You got to get out in the hallway." And I'm like, "Man, I can't get up. I just I just had spine surgery. I can't get up." So they wheeled me out in the hallway, but that was just my luck, here I am having open spine surgery, and a tornado's touched down, within 10 miles of me. So, but I had the surgery, was discharged, went home, and uh, rehabbed on the couch. You know, went to a doctor's appointment once a week. They Once I healed enough, they put me in physical therapy, and things started to heal. I started to get stronger, and I went back to work about 6 months after I had the surgery. Um, and they were very cautious with me. They when I first came out back out on the job, they didn't let they didn't let me do this, they didn't let me do that. They just wanted me to be careful. But I went back, and I started seeing I started seeing my doctor every 30 days because he was prescribing like at the time, like I said, he was prescribing Percocet for me for breakthrough pain,
Okay.
which I was taking.
Let me stop you right there. Do you mind if I run to the restroom real quick before we get into this?
Not at all. I'll do the same thing.
And I want to touch base with you a little more about the injuries. I know you talked to me. I think I want to highlight a couple of issues, and then we'll get into the pain relief. Okay. But let me
Sure.
run
Yeah,
to the
yeah.
restroom. I'm an old man. Let me run to the restroom, and then I'll be right back.
I'll be right back. Also, sorry about that. I had to make myself a little something to drink here.
Yeah. What are we drinking?
Actually, it's some amino acids and some electrolytes and shit like that. Throw a little
So yeah, have
pre-workout.
you ever had a weight problem?
No, nope. Uh, I
Yeah.
mean, I got a little flabby there for a while when I was sitting on the couch. I had a spare tire that just would not go away. It 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 haunted me for a long time, but no, I've never really had a weight problem. I think the
All right.
heaviest I've ever been has been about 234. Um, I run about a buck 75 right now.
How tall are you?
6 foot.
6 foot. All right. Um. Now you'd said yesterday that you were paralyzed below the knee.
Right. Part of my injury was the drop foot in the right foot, and mine I got I got an extra great dose of it. Normal drop foot is you just lose control of your foot, but mine's extra special. I got mine with love. I'm paralyzed from about mid calf down, so I can it's funny. I have a little bit of muscle in my right calf, but once you get uh, once you get down below mid calf, it's pretty atrophied. Uh, it's just shrunk up. It looks like my left leg looks like a man's leg, and my right leg looks like a girl's leg. So
So
you know,
so can you move your foot? Can you control it?
I can move it barely left and right, and I can push down somewhat, but I can't pull it back to me at all. There's nothing there, and I can barely wiggle my toes. But other than that, no, it's just there. So
What
I
about feeling? Do you have any feeling below the calf,
uh
midpoint of the calf?
there's it just depends on what I like. It depends. Some days I do, some days I don't. My wife dropped a hammer on my big toe a few years ago, and I didn't feel it whatsoever. But she can uh, she can do
Sure she
something like,
did that accidentally? You sure she did that
I
accidentally?
I want to hope so. But, I don't put anything past women.
Yeah.
That's a special breed there.
Sounds like
But
the
yeah,
German one would have done it intentionally.
well, without a doubt. Yeah, yeah. Uh, you know, I don't know. I don't know what you're going to edit in and out of this, but turns out she was screwing everybody but me. You know, so
Yeah, that's funny, man.
yeah, she had her ways. But yeah, basically what it is about the drop foot is that if you've ever, I don't know if you've ever been around with somebody with drop foot, but when you walk, because like I said, I'm basically paralyzed from mid calf down. You walk with an accent in your leg. It's like your leg comes up first instead of going straight out. So it's almost like you're marching on that leg. And so basically, uh, you're dragging. I think my right leg weighs like 36 pounds, according to the doctors. But I'm every step I'm dragging 36 pounds around instead of actually walking without effort like a normal person would walk, if that makes any sense.
But you've got its stability with it. I mean, there's not a chance of rolling the ankle or any of that stuff.
I have a brace, what they call an AFO, that I'm supposed to wear. But the problem with wearing the AFO that does give me the stability I need, um, in the part of the calf muscle that does function, if I wear that AFO, I lose muscle mass. It doesn't. Um, it's fit from my foot all the way up to the back of my knee. So it doesn't allow you. It doesn't allow that foot to function to go this way or that way. It holds it at a 90-degree angle for stability. but it doesn't allow you to use the muscle in the calf. So I would prefer to be able to exercise that, and so I very rarely wear it. Very rarely wear it. I might wear it like family function, like a wedding or something like that, or someplace I know I'm going to be there for a long period of time. And it does cause me to trip over it. I will trip over my foot on more than one occasion throughout the day. But it just is what it is.
All right, so tell me, describe your pain after your accident and after the surgery. Describe what pain you were suffering from.
The lower back pain was probably not the worst of it, although it was constant. But my biggest pain was the neuropathy. Uh, it was more of a nerve pain that I had in my hip that ran all the way down my leg and into my toes, and it was constant. Uh, it was an everyday thing, and they prescribed a they prescribed a drug that what was the name of that? And kids were taking it there for a while to try to get high off of, it, and they were getting high. Uh, I can't remember what the name of it was. Gabapentin. That's it. Uh, they prescribed gabapentin for me, and it curbs nerve pain, but it had an effect on me on my mind. It made me it made me foggy, where I was, it's hard to describe. I just didn't like the way it made my mind feel, so I didn't take it. They tried a couple other drugs that were similar to it, but it always had the same effect on me. It affected my brain, and
Well,
so
well, hell, that may be what's wrong with me. I take gabapentin for migraines, and I've been taking it for years and years for migraine headaches, and maybe that's what's wrong with me. Shit, I don't know.
everybody's different. If it works for you, I'm not against it. But for me, I'm just better off drug free. You know, uh,
Yeah.
I I barely take Tylenol. I mean, if
Well,
I
that's all.
matter of fact, uh, my last back surgery. And some people can't believe this, but I'm gonna tell you the honest truth. My last back surgery was done. Uh, Let me think. I think 2019, after I had started DDPY. And what they did was in order to relieve the nerve damage, they made the suggestion of taking the hardware out of my back, and it worked. So I had all of the hardware, all the screws, rods, pins, which I had two steel rods that went down the length of my spine area where I was fused, and I had six screws at each vertebrae, L1 to S1. And I continued to complain about the nerve pain, and I was at a chiropractor of all people, and he said, "Well, that's simple. The hardware is pressing up against the nerves, and it's creating the nerve damage, the nerve pain. You should have that taken out." And who knew? But I did. I had it taken out, and I haven't had nerve damage or nerve pain ever since that day. When I woke up from the surgery, back in out of recovery, back in my room, I remember the first thing I remembered was, "Hey, that pain's gone." And that was just, I mean, that was an incredible thing, That was, it really was.
So,
And
so wait a
but
minute, wait a minute. Let me stop you right there. So you've had seven spinal surgeries. You said
uh-huh.
earlier. When did they put that hardware in?
The first one, was in 2001, 6 months after I'd injured myself. Was the very first one, and that was only at the first three vertebrae. That was L1, L2, L3. Um,
But they put
then
hardware in then, right?
right,
And that's when you started having the nerve pain.
right? That's when I started having the nerve pain.
Okay, go ahead.
Uh, also, uh, prior to uh, my very first fusion, they went in and did a procedure where the herniated disc itself, they went in and they used an extract from papaya that as the I don't know if you're familiar with bulging disc, but the gel that's in between your different vertebrae in the stack, when you herniate a disc, that gel sticks out, and that's why it creates pain because the gel presses up against the nerves. Well, they do a procedure where they go in and they dissolve that bulging disc where it's ruptured and is pressing out. I've had that done twice, and that gave me almost immediate relief. So I mean, I wasn't surprised when the accident happened because I'd had a few back issues prior to, but anyway, and before I forget, I want to finish telling you what I was telling you. In my last surgery where I had the hardware removed, I did that opiate free, no painkillers. The only thing I took was they gave me some Tylenol 3, uh, and that was it. And that's only while I was in the hospital. So I had kicked the opiates, and I was determined I wasn't going to go back on them, and that was a tough one. So
All right, let's get to the opiate use. Now we've
so
said
the
why you needed them. Now let's get to the opiate use.
well the opiates got out of hand when I was telling you earlier that they sent me from uh, the the doctor of record who handled, who did my examinations. I saw him weekly, and he was the one that was giving me out my Percocet prescriptions and just doing like what they called maintenance drugs. And at that point, it never really was what I felt like was an issue for me. But when the opiate crisis hit Ohio, I was telling you that the Bureau of Workers' Compensation had made the decision that if you were going to receive further opiates, that you had to go to a pain management specialist, somebody who that's all they did. They just prescribed opiates. Uh, so they sent me down there, and I was already on Percocets, and the doctor of record had introduced me to fentanyl patches, and for what they were at the time, they helped with the pain. And like I told you before, I was in an everyday pain of 7, 8, 9, just every day. That's just what I lived with. And so I go see this pain management doctor, and on day one, he takes me off a Percocet and he puts me on Oxy 30s, and he increases my fentanyl usage from 125 micrograms to 250 micrograms. He he just basically he doubles my fentanyl dose and takes me off of Percocet and puts me on Oxycontin 30s, which in today's society you can get killed for either of those drugs. But that's when everything started going downhill. When he put me on all that medicine, I I just I basically lost control of how and when I was using the opiates because once you get exposed to that amount, it gets away from you.
What year was
You
that?
let's see. It probably was I want to say probably 2015 or 2014, somewhere right around there. Um,
So you were on there for what 3 or 4 or 5 years of that heavy. I mean, you had been. It sounds like doing opioids for since 2001, but you went to
right, but at that
fentanyl.
time it was a
Yeah.
Oh, I was just going to say, in the beginning when I was just seeing the regular BWC doctor, it was under control, or what I felt was under control. Uh, but when they sent me to this pain management specialist, man, I mean, just my opiate use just went through the roof. Um,
So you took
Fentanyl,
opiates daily since 2001,
right?
and I imagine that they got um, less effective the more you took it.
Absolutely, absolutely. Uh, Fentanyl patches are dosed in a 72-hour period, meaning obviously every 3 days you take the old patch off and you put a new patch on. Well, I was complaining so much about my pain, and it was a legitimate, it was a legitimate bitch. I was in pain that the doctor increased my usage from 72 hours to 48 hours. I would change my fentanyl patch every 48 hours. And so what I started doing was, when I would take that patch off at 48 hours, I would stick it in my mouth and put the new patch on and blow it away. I mean, there's just nothing I can do about it. And to be honest with you, uh, it rotted all but 6 teeth out of my head. Uh, it's nothing that I'm proud of, but I try to own everything that I have. So, it did. It took a great portion of my life away. And
You're the
I,
first person I've talked to that's really was heavy into fentanyl, and I don't, I was, um, I mean, I don't have any experience with it, and so I'm curious why is it? Tell me a little bit about it. I mean, it's become such um, you know, an issue in our society today, and I'm just curious to know a little bit more about fentanyl, what it's about, and why it's so much different than the other drugs that are out there.
Fentanyl, uh, and well, opiates in general, but fentanyl is, if I'm not mistaken, fentanyl is 4 times stronger than morphine.
Damn, I have had some
The
experience with
the
morphine.
So, and as well as I. So that when you get that initial shot of morphine and you get that euphoria, it when you're first introduced to that, it's not a bad feeling. I mean, it creates a bad feeling, and obviously it's not good for you. But you know, that it gives you this comfortably numb feeling.
Mm-hmm.
It takes away all your pain, and you know, when you're a chronic pain person, when you get that when you get that relief from the pain, it's like a breath of fresh air, you know. So fentanyl is so powerful that it will alleviate your pain almost immediately. I mean, just as soon as as soon as you get it into your system, it eliminates the pain. But as you said earlier, it it doesn't take very long to build up a tolerance to it. So that's why they went. I can't say that. I started to say something that probably wasn't true. That's probably not why he took me from 125 micrograms up to 250. He just wanted to get paid. He's prescribing something stronger, he gets paid more. But the fentanyl opiate, uh, the attraction is, obviously twofold. It's going to give you the relief that you need, but it also puts you in like a dream state. Like, uh, you're you're just in this euphoria where nothing matters and everything's good, and you're going to do whatever you got to do to stay there. I think that's why you know, so many people fail at trying to get off of this stuff, because it's just so powerful. It is incredibly powerful.
Now I mean, there's a lot of, people overdose. Like, isn't that what killed Jackson? Wasn't it? And Michael Jackson and Prince, wasn't he
Yep.
mixed with
Yep.
fentanyl? And there was that dude.
Yep.
It was that dude that I recently looked up. That dude that was Omar on The Wire. That guy, I think he had
Yeah.
fentanyl and
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
cocaine, and he had all kinds of stuff
Um,
in him.
yeah. And what's his name? There was another actor that
Was it Phoenix? One
he
of the
was he was
Phoenixes? Did he have fentanyl in
yeah,
him?
Phoenix River. Well, I think his was a an opiate or a heroin
Oh,
overdose.
heroin.
But I'm thinking about the guy that played Batman. Remember,
I'm
he
trying to see.
died right after the movie came out, or during the filming of the movie.
Was it the
What was his
Joker?
name?
Was it the Joker?
Yeah, yeah,
It
yeah.
was the
That's
Joker.
it.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about. Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean
yeah. He was the Joker. You're right.
it's killing a lot of people, man. It's taking a lot of people out. Are they just overdosing on it, taking too much?
Well, what happens is when when you overdose on fentanyl, it causes you to stop breathing, and you don't know you're stopped breathing. And then once you stop breathing, everything else just kind of follows suit and just shut down. But
Isn't there some?
that's actually go ahead.
Isn't there some like that? You worried about it in the air or something? The breathing, like if they, fentanyl's around. The emergency responders, they back out.
Well, well, you're talking about two different types of fentanyl, though.
Okay.
You're talking about a powder form, which is used to create, stronger heroin and, and drugs like that. Where mine was in a patch. It was a liquefied gel that was in a sealed patch that I wore, on my arm.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right. You get that in the air and it gets into your airways, then yeah, it can paralyze your lungs. Absolutely.
That's crazy, man. That's crazy. No, I'm
It's
just curious.
yeah, it's
How many years?
no,
How,
that's fine.
how many years were you on fentanyl?
Uh, I was on fentanyl probably a little over 10 years.
And then you really
A little over
started
10
having
years.
trouble
Yeah.
with it when that pain doctor got you in 2014 or so, 15, somewhere around in there.
Yeah. Yeah. Somewhere right around in there. And we was talking about passing out and how how people die is because they just quit breathing and stuff, and the first symptoms of it actually is when they pass out, and that's actually another one of the circumstances that caused me to open my eyes that, hey man, you got to do something about this. um, I had taken my grandson to the movies, and we went to the movies. We saw The Incredibles 2, which is a horrible movie. It sucked. Don't watch it. But he liked it. So we watched the movie, and then I let him play some arcade games after we would watch the movies and stuff. And then we got in my truck, and we were on our way home. And we'd pulled up to the red light. And at that red light, I passed out. And my grandson had to wake me up. And at that moment, I had one of those aha moments, and I realized at that point, hey man, I'm not only a danger to myself, but I'm a danger to my family. I'm a danger to my grandkids, my kids, my wife, whoever. Anybody that gets in the car with me, I'm a danger to them if I'm driving. So that all uh, that all happened right around uh, I don't know, within like the same period where I had the argument with the doctor in his office, and then I saw DDP on Joe Rogan, and the other doctor when I had the BWC examination, when he told me, man, you got to get off of this stuff. You don't realize it, but you're gonna die. You're killing yourself. You can survive without this shit. That all kind of happened at the same time. I mean, it just one episode went into the other one, and it reminded me of the next episode, and things like that happened. And uh, you know, that night when I passed out behind the wheel with my grandson, that was a major turning point. and knowing that I had to get off of this stuff. So,
When were you
um,
just basically living on the couch?
uh, let's see. I retired in, I want to say I retired in 2014 or 2015, and from that moment on until I got till I checked myself into the rehab facility in
18.
2018. So basically 4 years. Uh, it was, and like I was telling you before, I mean that was my whole life. I sat there, I ate there, I slept there, uh, I interacted with everybody else in the house from there. And as I said earlier, the only time I ever got up was to shower, use the restroom, or go to a doctor's appointment, and that is it. And anytime I got up off that couch, I used a walker or a cane. That was just how my life was because I was in so much
That's
pain.
what I was going to ask you about next. I heard you say something you got off the walker, but how often were you having to use the walker and stuff?
Oh, daily, daily, especially in the morning when I first wake up, I'd be extremely stiff, and hadn't taken my first oxycontin yet, so you know daily.
Would
But
you use a walker to get to the
it,
restroom?
walker to get to the restroom, walker to go to the shower. Well, no, I take that back. The shower was upstairs, so I would use my cane to go upstairs. But yeah, e- everywhere you go, and I'll tell you a triumphant moment for me when I started doing DDP or DDPY rather, and the I was starting to get stronger, and I noticed it, and I was sitting on the couch one day. I still hadn't got out of the habit of sitting on the couch all day every day, and I got up and I knew I didn't need that walker, and I'm kind of ashamed of myself to say this at this moment, but I picked that thing up and I threw it across the room and I said no more, no more, and my wife actually clapped for me. So
How long had
it
you
was an emotional
how
moment.
long had you been doing DDPY then?
Probably right around between 4 and 6 months.
That's awesome, man.
And I kept seeing little gains and little gains and little gains, and that's why I try to tell people when they ask me about stuff like that. It's baby steps, but each little baby step, it turns into it turns into something more and more and more, and before you know it, you're on a journey. So you know, don't give up, never give in.
What made what made you finally pick up the DDPY app or DVDs and start doing it? What was the final straw?
The final straw was actually seeing Dallas on Joe Rogan. I mean, I'd heard about it. Um, I saw him there, but um, well, you know what? Let me back up. I'm probably not telling you the truth. Uh, After I had that last surgery without using any opiates, um, and I was clean, and I made it through that, I knew that I could start doing this, and uh, I really started paying more attention to the program. Hell, I had the program for I don't know 6 months before I ever started it, but I was watching the videos every day, you know, and and you get that in your brain like, man, I could do this, I could do this, I can do this, and you stop watching, you start doing, and
Which
you know,
ones did you start with?
once you start that momentum. Actually, I started with the chair program, um, stand with chair, stand with chair. I started with stand with chair, and progressed from there. Hell, uh, I did beginner program 6 times before I was able to move on. Before I was strong enough to move on to the intermediate
You mean
program.
each and
But
for those that don't know, the app is broken down if you're going through the regular program into 13-week 13-week segments. And so you're saying you did the beginner 13-week segment 6 times?
6 times before I was strong enough to. And then once I got to intermediate, it's just like it's just like this cloud just kind of broke away, and I really started seeing progress after that. But I wasn't going to push myself into something that I knew I couldn't do because I tried the intermediate program and some of the harder ones I wasn't able to do. But once I graduated that last time, and I knew I was confident enough to go on, I probably could have started just a little bit earlier and pushed myself a little bit harder. But I was so afraid of re-injuring myself that and that's the last thing I wanted to do. Which, by the way, is brings me to a good point. Um, when I had my first surgery, my first fusion, the surgeon told me, said, you know, as you progress in age, your back is going to it's going to overcompensate for the fusion area. So the vertebrae above there they're gonna wear out, and you're gonna eventually just need to keep having more and more and more fusions. He said, I wouldn't be surprised if you weren't, completely fused all the way up your back by the time it's all said and done. And by doing the DDPY and getting my core strong, uh, nothing like that. I go for a once a year physical, and they say, man, what are you doing? Whatever it is, don't stop.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. So you you said earlier that you've ridden a bike 100 miles.
I
When
did.
when was that?
Um, I it was this past September, right after, I mean, September or October, right after we got down here. I had been training for it all summer long. Well, it actually I trained for it for over a year. I set that as a goal, and I tried several times and failed. Uh, I'd made it 60, 70, 80 miles, and I actually think I made it one time, but the app shut down on me. I made it out. What I would do is I would go out a certain amount of distance. I went out 55 miles and came back, but the app I was using to track me shut down. I guess I lost internet signal or whatever the case may be, but I lost it. So I didn't have any way to actually show proof that I did it, so I didn't count it. But after we got down here, um, I just felt it one day. I was like, man, you know what? I think this might be the day. I think I'm going to try this. And I went out and I did it, and it was a feeling of huge accomplishment, you know. Uh, and like I said earlier, I love riding bike. I'm very passionate about it. Um, but if it wasn't for doing the DDPY,
Well, I
there's no
mean,
bike ride. It's just
that's what
that
I was
simple.
just sitting here thinking. A man that's on a walker for 4 years, um, living on a couch, to doing 100-mile bike ride or even a 60-mile bike ride is amazing. It seems like on the bike you're sitting on a little bitty seat, and every little bump on the road jars your back. It's just amazing to me that you can
Yeah.
do it.
Yeah.
You know, with all your back issues.
Um, and you know what? Here's another thing about riding bicycle that I find just astonishing. And it has to be DDPY related. It has to be core related. And I'll tell you why. Because when I'm on the bicycle, and I tell you, I told you before that, I live with a constant 2, 3 pain level every day. That's just life. And it's very manageable for me. That doesn't mean shit to me compared to living with a 7, 8, 9 every day. So, having that lower level that's a break for me. But getting my core strong and being able to ride a bike, and I don't know why it's like this, but it is. I have absolutely no pain when I'm on the bicycle. I don't have drop foot when I'm on the bicycle because the gyration of, constantly pedaling and my foot's in a stirrup, there's no drop foot. Everything about being on the bike, I'm back to being me. There's no there's and I hate this. By the state of Ohio, I'm 100% disabled, and I hate that term. I'm not disabled. I might be a little broken, but I'm not disabled. And when I'm on the bike, man, it's just there there's no disability, there's no pain, there's nothing. There's just nothing. There's just nothing but just euphoria. It's just a beautiful thing for me.
Do you
So
clip in?
I'm really, pardon me.
Do you clip in?
No, I can't do that because my foot doesn't function. The right foot doesn't function, so I can't clip out, clip in.
Yeah, you can't get the
Uh,
heel. Can't make your heel come out, I
uh,
guess.
right. So
So
I use the old-fashioned straps. The old, we're talking about the old boot,
yeah,
or what are they?
yeah,
Like a stirrup strap.
yeah.
I use those, and it keeps my foot in place. Uh, the only bad thing about that is if somebody cuts me off or something, I can't get my foot out quick enough to respond. I've fallen over a couple of times.
Well, man,
But
I tore up my little brother's custom made bike falling. I was clipped in, and I forgot how to unclip in a moment of panic. Pull up to a stop sign, and you just fall over. You feel like such a dumbass, but
yeah.
I did it to the right, and I pushed that derailer into the damn spokes, and
Oh,
um, I don't know. That's a whole nother story. But I had to fix some of my little brother's custom made bike after that fall. But man, you feel like such a fool when you fall over with your feet in the damn
yeah,
pedal of a
yeah,
bike.
yeah. And you just go
Mm.
boom, and
Yeah.
I mean, there's nothing you can do about it. Uh, uh,
No.
the, One of the first time I ride a Cannondale CAD 3, and I love that bike. And when I first got it, I was out riding, and I learned a valuable lesson that I came up to a stop sign, and the car that was coming towards me from the left waved me through. Said, "Come on, it's okay, I'll wait." Waved me through, and like a dumbass, I went ahead and went. And then as soon as I started to pull out across traffic, here come a car around the corner and caused me to fall over. Because I had no place else to go. I had to stop and get out of the way. So that that moment, I learned, Nat, you go first, car, and then when nobody else is coming, then I'll go. So people all the time, they go ahead, go ahead, go, and I'm nope, pass on that. But uh, actually, 2 weeks ago, I was going to tell you this earlier, and I forgot about it. 2 weeks ago, are you familiar with David Goggins?
Yeah, yeah. I listened to his book. Can't hurt me. Yeah.
Yeah, I did too.
Hmm.
One of my favorite books. Well, then you're aware of his 4x4x48.
Is that where he rode all to 24 hours?
You
Or
you do 4 miles every 4 hours for 48 hours.
wait a minute, wait a
And
minute.
I
Say that again.
participated.
4 miles.
You do
No, no. I guess I wasn't
four
aware of
miles.
that.
Yeah, 4 miles every 4 hours for 48 hours.
No, I
And
hadn't heard.
I trained for that thing for over a year, and I participated in that this year, and I completed it. And
Wow.
it beat the hell out of me. But I'll tell you what, I wouldn't trade it for anything. Uh, Matter of fact, um, two of the people that are in my tribe, Rodney Mason and uh, Catherine Gerard, they both participated in it. Catherine did rowing on a rowing machine every 4 hours, and Rodney rode his inside bike. He's got an inside trainer. But I actually went out and not that I'm better than they are, but I
Yeah.
actually hit the road and did my 4 miles. But yeah, we participated in that, man. That was
Wait a minute.
something I'm very proud of.
Say it again. 4 miles every 4 hours
Uh huh.
for
for
48
48
hours.
hours.
So how many miles is that
Uh-huh.
total? Let's see, four. So it'd
48.
be 24 miles. Yeah, a day.
It's
It'd be 48 miles. Yeah.
right,
Oh, but
right.
hell, it's the sleep and and all of that, the sleeping and eating and all that. That's the problem.
Yeah. Well,
Did you do
and
it
the eating part,
unsupported?
nope. My wife, she hung right in there with me and did every bit of it for me. She was a, I would try to get sleep. The first 24 hours, I got zero sleep whatsoever. But she did she did my laundry, kept all my workout clothes clean, uh, you know, fed me, made sure I stayed hydrated. She was my support team. She did a lot, uh,
That's
and it
unbelievable,
was
man.
it was good. But none of that happens without DDPY.
Yeah.
None of it.
You you know
Absolutely none.
when you first said the 4x4 by 48, I thought you were talking about Goggins' story when he rode for 24 hours straight or something. He was trying to get in some endurance race, or
Oh yeah,
ran
yeah,
for
yeah.
24 hours straight or something, and then the first time the guy didn't let him in because I don't know, I forget the story, so he had to do it again or something. I don't know, but he finally got in those endurance races.
Yeah,
That guy's a nut,
yeah.
man.
I remember that. Yeah, he is. He is. His mindset actually helps me quite a bit with how I have to tell my story to myself. Uh, because if you don't tell yourself something, if you don't tell yourself the truth and say, "Yes, I can do this," then I don't think you're gonna accomplish what you're trying to accomplish. Because if you go into something saying, "Damn, man, this is tough. I don't know if I can do this or not," you're defeated. You're defeated right off the get-go because you're in your back of your head, man. You're telling yourself, "I'm gonna fail,"
Yeah,
but he tells you, "Yes, you can." You know, don't don't be a I don't want to throw out a bunch of slur words out here, but you know, just don't be a sissy about it. Get out there and do it. You can do it.
yeah,
Push yourself past what you think your limits are.
yeah.
You
That
know,
dude's crazy,
it
man.
works.
Yeah,
Yeah, he is.
yeah. But I think there's a lot to be said about that. DDP is always quoting those. I mean, has a lot of sayings and quotes talking about if you say you can or you can't, you're right,
Right. Yeah.
and the I forget what the one that Muhammad Ali says, but the daily
All about the
affirmation,
affirmations.
yeah,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know, and then once you believe it, it becomes a habit and a certainty. So, but yeah, it's it is all about mindset and what once you set your mind to something, you can do it. Um, and
Yeah.
it's crazy, and I mean, I think that's part of the DDPY culture is that, and it's part of what makes it so beautiful is that um, there's a hope for everybody, no matter what station you are in life, and you know, if you set your mind and put in the work, it's going to change your life. It's going to transform your life, and I truly believe, that it doesn't matter what condition you start. If you do it, you're gonna. I mean, it's gonna just change your life completely, man.
Well, I've come to the realization that I know that I'm not the same specimen of human being that I was when I was 21 years old. I know that. I mean, no matter how hard you train, you're never going to get that useful uh, response in your body back. But what I try to look at is that what's stopping me from being the absolute best version of myself at this age? And I hate to say this, but I think too many people don't give themselves enough credit. going back to the mindset, they they don't believe in themselves enough to know that they can do this regardless of what everybody else says to them. You can do it. You just you can. It's just a matter of how bad you want it.
Absolutely, absolutely. Uh, well, what's the next? You've done the 100 miles and you've done the 4x4x48. What's the next quest for Bob Ramsey?
Well, you know what? I'm not sure. I really don't. Um, I've actually been kind of in a funk since since the 48 came and went, which was like 2 weeks ago. My body's uh, my body's pretty beat up from it. Um, it's not responding well to and I've reached out to a couple of people that I trust their opinions, and everybody continues to tell me the same thing is hey man, you need some rest. You gotta rejuvenate that body. You gotta rest. Quit hitting it so hard. And not that I'm the I hit it harder than anybody else, but that I'm 61 years old, and I think competing an endurance race like that, uh, it I understand why I'm going downhill, or not going downhill, but why I'm not recovering as fast as I think I should have. But to answer the question of what's next, I don't know. I'm always looking for something that's going to challenge me. I'm sure I'll find something, but I have. This is really going to sound crazy to you, but I have a desire to ride. There's a path that goes across the bottom seaboard of the United States. There's a bike path. I have a desire to do that. It might take me 3 months to do it, but I'd like to ride from Florida to California.
So you're talking from all the way from coast to coast.
Right.
Now you
Might take me a while to get.
yeah, would you camp or would you stay in hotels or what would you do?
I I'd probably stay in hotels. Um, there's there's actually quite a few paths that go across the United States that people bike. Um, there's one that there's a bike path that goes from Cincinnati to Pittsburgh. It's the old C&O or B&O railroad path. I might try that first. I think it's 460 miles, something like that. 480. I may be wrong, but anyway, I think I might try that first. But I really want to try this at some point
Is
to do that across the United
is
States.
that path up there in Ohio? Is it paved or did they leave that, or is it like mountain bike, like rock? Like that kind of trail.
It's a paved path, but there are some areas where it can get pretty sketchy. Uh, I, you can see it on YouTube where different people have done it. Um, I you know I've seen guys have to pick up their bikes and walk across certain like walk across a creek or something like that. But yeah, for the most part, it's paved,
Are you gonna
and
use
there are
you gonna use your road bike or you gonna get you a gravel bike?
you know what? I have a recumbent bike it's a three wheel bike that I would probably use.
Oh, really? Is that like where you're almost
Yeah.
laying down and you're
Yes.
yeah? Well, that's cool. Is that what you did the four by? No, you said you did that on a Cannondale.
Yeah, I did that on a Canada. I
Yeah.
wanted to get those miles done as quick as I could and try to get some
Yeah.
sleep. Uh,
But the
but
long one you do on a
the
recumbent bike.
right, yeah, I think so. Now I don't know about you know if I was to ride across the United States, I think I think I would probably use the Cannondale. But knowing that trail that goes from Cincinnati to Pittsburgh, on that particular trail, I think I would use the recumbent because it's more designed for rough trail, rough, you where the trip that you got across the United States. Um, it's all freeways and roads and there's been a lot of people who have done it, so they've already and they made it pretty easy for you as far as where you can uh, where you can go from point A to point B in a destination of a day. Uh, you know, and where they've already got different hotels staked out, and there's charging stations along the way to if you need to take a break, charge your phone up, stuff like that. They've already got all that stuff mapped out.
Do you know anything about the
So
Hotter Than Hell 100 in Wichita Falls?
no, no,
You
I'm not
you ought
I'm
to
not
you
familiar
ought
with
to
it at all.
check it out. If you're if you're that since you're passionate about biking, but it's got that's probably the premier biking event, definitely for Texas, probably in I think the Southwest or something. But anyway, like 13,000 bicyclists go to Wichita Falls for that event in a year, they estimate. And but anyway, that I did. They've got the road bike route, which the shorter routes are the biggest ones, a 100 miler. And which well, good thing about Wichita Falls is it's fairly flat up there. It's in the north part of Texas, right before Oklahoma. And not in the
Uh-huh.
Panhandle. It's down here on the bigger part of Texas. But anyway, but it's not just a road bike race. They've got a gravel bike race. They've got a mountain bike race. They've got speed racing, some kind of speed racing event. It's like a 4 day biking event, and
Ooh.
there's a there's vendor fairs and like with the road bike race, it's the best support system you've ever seen. Every 8 or 10 miles, there's a people gear up all year to go out and have their each they have like contests between the support, who's going to have the best support for the bicyclists and different things. I mean, it's a really neat event. And but if you're a David Goggins type person, they do combinations where they do 2 or 3 events through the span of 2 or 3 days. They do you can do the mountain bike, and you can do the road bike, and you can do the gravel if you want to back to back, and or there's an event where people throw in a marathon. I mean, it's like that. There's for the endurance enthusiasts. There's any event you want to punish yourself up there in Wichita Falls over that weekend, and it's in August.
That's a good way to
Yeah, I mean, so
that's a good way to describe
oh
it.
man, it's I don't know how those people do it. Like some of them they do it in the middle of the night, like the gravel or the mountain. I mean, it's crazy what they do up there. But anyway, if you're into biking, you need to, and you're in Texas, you ought to check out that it's in August every year. It's called the Hotter Than Hell 100. But anyway, I don't want to.
Hey, if you have any information about that, will you message it to me
Yeah,
later?
I'll send it to you, man. It's hey, but don't say I didn't warn you. It's that's uh, it's tough for them some bitches up there. But my little brother says that one down there at the coast is tougher than that 100 up there. So I don't know. Anyway, I don't mean to take away from your story, but uh,
Oh no, you're fine.
but it just amazes me that you can do these things or even think about doing these things. You're talking about endurance events now. You're not just talking about living a normal life. You're talking about endurance events.
Well, I spent so much time like I felt like I was dead that I no longer had life in me. Now that I do have life back in me, I try to do everything I can, you know. And I'm very fortunate that my wife supports me the way she does. Uh, I mean, good God, she just she found this place and we just picked up and left Ohio and came here just so I would feel better. So I'm very fortunate in that aspect that she supports me in everything I do, and I deeply appreciate that from her.
Well, tell me how has DDPY changed your life in other respects?
Um, you know what? I'll be honest with you. Eating, when I changed my eating habits, that wasn't overly difficult for me. And uh, learning to do the physical work, that wasn't hard for me either because I've worked hard all my life, and I was an athlete when I was young, so I already had I had the mindset of an athlete, know what it takes to get the work done. But what did change for me was my sympathy and empathy towards other people. Um, growing, growing up as a construction worker, because I started in construction at a very early age, and then also I was in the military. But in construction, the mindset basically is, if you show weakness to any of the other crafts, they will just they'll just bowl you over. They will just, you know, you show a weakness and they'll just run you over with it. And eventually that kind of mindset kind of takes over. And so when I would come across people outside of the work community, I would basically just treat them the same way. I wasn't empathetic whatsoever to your plight. If you're having a bad day, I really don't give a damn. But DDPY has taught me to care more about my fellow human being, and it's something that I'm still learning on a daily basis. But I, I'm a softer, gentler version of a huge asshole as compared to what I was, before I started this.
A
And
softer, gentler asshole.
I yeah, absolutely. I'm still a little salty. I guess I'm always going to be that way. But if somebody had taken the time to try to explain this to me, I was going to get this out of this journey, I'd told you you're full of shit. That's just not going to happen. That's just not me. But it is. It's I. They say you get softer as you get older, but you know what? I don't believe that. Uh, I think people's true feelings as they start to get older really start to come out more because they really don't care. But I've learned that the more the gentler I treat people, the more receptive they are to me. And it's not an easy task, but it's one that I'm on, and I appreciate being on. So I'm not sure everybody I'm not sure everybody would answer you that way, but that's for me, that's been actually the toughest part of it.
No, I think that's cool, man. Um, I'm thinking this may be part of it, so I'm gonna go ahead and ask the question now. I've got a couple of questions that I ask everybody that wanted the first, and I ask everybody this one is how has social media affected your journey or transformation? Because social media was a big part of mine, and the social media and the community. So I ask that about everybody, and I'm curious to hear everyone else's answer. But how has social media and the community affected you?
The whole social media thing, especially for our generation, we weren't brought up with the computer age. We you know we get what knowledge we need from people that are younger than us. But the social media is the whole connection of being around other people, especially for me, who's an introvert. Initially, I really wasn't. I really wasn't receptive to displaying my personal feelings out there for the world to read. Um, it's, I think it's got its place in the community, but um, this is probably going to get it's probably going to be a bad review about what I'm going to say, but I think too many people in the DDPY community are too focused on the circus of being noticed instead of actually doing the work that it takes to be successful, more people are just, I think, are look at me, look at me, look at me, where they should be more focused on doing what they need to be successful. And I hope that doesn't offend anybody, but I really
I mean,
believe
I
that.
think it's part of your
But
your blue
social
collar
media is
mindset. You know, I mean, that's what you come from is hard work. You know.
right. Yeah, and that's true. That's very true. And I wish that uh, that the community didn't have to have that mindset of wanting the attention that uh, you know I that Dallas quoted, or Dallas made a comment on my post, or Paige made a comment, or Yoga Doc made a comment, or whoever, who's ever the flavor of the week, they made a comment about me. I wish people wouldn't get so caught up in that. I wish they would get more caught up in what the prize is instead of what the gifts are. If that makes any sense.
No, I think it makes a lot of sense. I mean, I think the prize is definitely um, the health, better mental state, better life. You know, that's the prize. Uh, but uh,
Absolutely.
but but the community is also a prize too. You know, I mean, to me, the support of the community and the people you meet is also a prize. And so I think the knife cuts both ways. You know, I really do. And, what's neat about this community is there's so many people, supportive people in it, that whatever you need, there there's a group out there that are of like minded in the community, and will support you and do whatever you need to get you healed, to get you better. I mean, it's an unbelievable community.
It's true, and but I think my point. Uh, I don't want you to take my point the wrong way. I think people need to post more about um, what they've owned in doing this, as opposed to how many likes they can get. I think that's probably where I was going with that more than. And I'm not saying you're disputing
Yeah.
what I'm saying. I'm just saying that I think too many people worry about how many likes they can get on any one post that they give. You know,
Are you a member of the DDP Yoga Facebook group?
I am, I am, and I've left it a
Yeah.
couple of times because I get aggravated. Uh, I get aggravated with the admins because they'll yank something down that I post that, I get what I get their point. Their point is it has to be DDPY related, and I get that, and I get aggravated because I might post something that might not necessarily be directly related. I get that. So I've been back and forth a few times. Uh,
and
but yeah, I'm
I can tell
active.
you, I've done the same thing. Along this journey, um, get aggravated with the admins, but I just, you know, what that community does is such a great um, community. I mean, my hat's off to them. Whatever they're doing works, and it's so supportive. So I
It
yeah,
does. It's
and so
very supportive.
I I think of it like, you know, I don't, I try to stay. I just try to, like they got jumped. They took my stuff down for doing those time lapse deals, and different things. Even though it was DDP yoga, they didn't time lapse, and and certain couldn't show certain things. And so, you know, I just got to where I accepted their um, standards as best I could, and I try to stay within them because I know that the in this case the ends is such a beautiful product that I'm not going to challenge it anymore. I mean, I they they do what
You're
they
right.
do, and it's beautiful, and I need to respect their process.
And you're absolutely right. And you know what? And you made a very valid point. I've come to the realization that I'm not going to change how they feel and what their policy is. So if you want to be a member of that community, an active member, then you got to play by the rules. So that's what I try to do. Uh, and but yeah, the community in itself is so receptive to everybody and anybody who wants to come in there and be supported. That's what they're really there for, and there's nothing about that that's just not a beautiful thing.
All right, man. The let's see. You've been to the performance center. I know we talked about this yesterday. Tell us a little bit about that.
Um, Last summer, I got a DM from Roman Rizal asking me if I would be interested in coming down to Smyrna with some other veterans to participate in a program that they're trying to put together called Warrior's Purpose. And immediately I was like, oh hell yeah, I'm all in. Uh, I anything I can do to help a veteran, I'm there. And so uh, we we things developed and they evolved and it came time to go go to Atlanta, and they flew people in from all over the United States, and I think there was a total of 10 of us, five guys, five women, and we met down there, and and instantly there was just this bond with the veterans, because once you're a vet, you're always a vet, and it doesn't matter if you're Navy and I'm Army, or we can kid back and forth with each other, but nobody from the outside can mess with that fellow veteran. And it's just it's an amazing thing when a bunch of veterans get together. They don't have to find something in common or to talk about it, because they've already got something that is common, and there's something there that just is amazingly beautiful. It just comes together, and we're here. I'm supporting you on this, and you supporting me on that, and let's just get this done. Um, I don't think I want to go too far
No,
into detail as far as what happened down there with
yeah,
the chaos,
no,
if
just
that's all right
no.
with
I
you.
just talk about what what good came of it, and what you did, what was
Um,
what was the
so what
purpose
we
and
did
what
was
happened. I mean,
we
what all did y'all do and that kind of
uh,
thing. Well, I know it hadn't come out yet. DDP hadn't put it out yet, so I don't know. But I guess it could be advertising for them if you talk a little bit about what to expect and that kind of thing.
Uh, from what I understand, this past Veterans Day, they announced that they were coming out with the Warriors Purpose program. And what it is basically is they brought the veterans all together, and we did workouts with Dallas, and we did workouts with Paige, who she is brutal to work out with. I mean, that woman is tough. She is tough. And we did a workout with Yoga Doc, and Scott French led some of the activities, and it was 4 compacted days of just nonstop workouts. I mean, you were in for a rotation, and then you were out for a rotation, then you were back in. So you were getting your workout, your grind in while you were there. There was just absolutely no two ways about it. Uh, and they put us up in the Sheridan down there in Atlanta. It was a beautiful thing. All the rooms were deluxe suites. Nobody shared a room. We were all in our own suites, and it was just so, I don't know. It was organized in a beautiful way. Let me tell you a little bit about what happened on the very first day of filming. Uh, they pick us up at the Sheridan. and they take us to the PC, and we're there at the PC for the very first time, and we're all standing out there in the filming area, waiting for Dallas to show up, and Dallas and Paige, and they walk in the door, and immediately Dallas starts going around the room and sticking his hand out and saying, "Hi, Rob, I'm Dallas, blah, 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 blah." And then you go to the next person. You spend a few minutes with you telling you, uh, what he knows about you, what you're up to, what you've been into. And then you go to the next person. They actually took the time, and Paige did the same thing. She went person to person, and she knew that I was into biking, and she knew that Matt Kilgore was into running, and Scott French is into karate, and the different things that these people knew uh, was just amazing. Uh, the the homework that they put in, and they made you feel right at home, just right out of the gate, and that was that was impressive to me. That I was, I wasn't looking for that. Um, I've been around other celebrities before, and uh, they're usually very self-centered, all about me, me, me. But man, they made us feel right at home from the get-go. Uh, Dallas and Paige and their staff, they just, I mean, everything about it was first class, man. It really was. It was always us first. They were there to accommodate us. We were there doing them a favor, is the feeling that I got from them. Not that we were in the presence of
Yeah.
greatness. You know what I'm saying? Wasn't any of that bullshit.
Well, so you spent 4 days with Dallas and Page.
Right. Yeah. And as with the fellow
And so
veterans, yeah.
now,
Mhm. Steve, Steve, you came in. Steve, you picked us up from the airport. He bussed us around all day, every day. Took us to lunch. Well, actually, they brought lunch in, but I mean, he took us to dinner every night. I mean, this guy's a multimillionaire, but he's out just, he doesn't flaunt that. He doesn't give that air off. He's just a really down to earth, really good dude.
for those
I mean,
that
he
don't
just
know,
really
Steve
is.
Yu is the president of DDP Yoga, and Dallas's partner. And he's I call him the wizard. He's the wizard behind the curtain. Dallas is the face and the passion and the driving force, but Steve's the one making it happen behind the scenes. And
Oh
and
yeah,
it's
he very
amazing
much
that
is.
the president of the company's out there bussing people around and taking them to dinner and everything else.
Yeah, yeah, he's a really cool guy too, man. I mean, he's just he just he I could see. I've talked to Steve a few times on the phone since
Hmm.
our days down there at DDPY, and it's just like me and you talking right now. I mean, he's just a regular guy. You know,
Is there a nicer
he's just
guy
down to earth.
on the planet?
Really is. I don't believe so. I mean, he's a very humble person,
you know,
extremely
it,
humble. Yoga Doc may come in second there. Yoga Doc is a really what you see is what you get kind of person. He he. If I had in my brain what I would consider a yogi, somebody that really lived that life, Yoga Doc is that guy. I mean, he is namaste, uh, bow to you, happy life, whole 9 yards. That's his demeanor. That's what you see when you meet that guy, and you get to know him a little
so
bit.
is the Warriors' purpose? Is it going to be like a series of workouts that they release on the app? A series of the workouts, or or is it? Yeah, okay,
That's what I
that's what I was
understand.
wondering.
It's Yeah, from what I understand, it's going to be available to veterans at 50%. So like instead of paying the $100 a year, they pay $50 a year, if I'm not mistaken. I think that's what it is. And At first, I think they said they were only going to make it available to veterans, but I think I, I don't want to overstep my bounds here, but I think they said that they changed the way of thinking on that, and that they're going to make it available to everybody. Uh, when when our inner circle, like when my tribe knew I was down there doing my thing with with Warriors Purpose, they provided us with Warrior Purpose grunt style T-shirts and shorts and stuff like that, and everybody was like, "Excuse me, I gotta have that shirt. I gotta have that shirt. How can I get that shirt?" And the request for people that you know they wanted to purchase that almost immediately, uh, and a lot of disappointed people when they say, "No, we're not coming out with that merch yet." But it, it it caught on really quick with the people that were in my inner circle, or as opposed to, if you would have been there, your inner circle, they would have blown it up. I mean, it's just, it was amazing how much that group of 10 people, how much they had explained, how much everybody who were associated with them wanted to be a part of that. And I think it's just a beautiful thing. There's so many veterans out there who suffer through uh, suffered through injury through the Afghanistan war that could use this program to rehabilitate themselves, uh, and get the relief that they really need. I'm really hoping that Warriors Purpose uh, comes to a head, it is exposed. We get to see it, and it gets to be used the way it's supposed to be used, sooner than later. Because I know there's a lot of veterans out there that could really use this, and I just I'm very thankful and grateful to be a member and part of it. I can't say enough good things about it. It's just a beautiful thing. It really is. And the nice thing about it is they treated it just like they did with what you were talking about earlier, how it doesn't matter where you're at physically, they've got a program for you. You know, there's some chair programs in there, and there's some. I actually do a lot of the modifications in the different videos, because I'll be honest with you, Vance, nobody modifies more than me, and I'm not ashamed of that at all. I know that I can do this program with the modifications and still get the results. So people that say, "Nah, I can't do that because I'm too injured, I'm too hurt," I call out on that. I call bullshit on that, because you can do it. You really can. But the Warriors Purpose thing, man, it's a beautiful thing, and I'm really looking forward to it coming out.
How,
I'm really proud to be a part of it.
how bad were some of the people there, the injuries, other than yourself? I mean, how I imagine there were some probably pretty seriously injured,
Um,
disabled people.
are you familiar with Steve Wright? Aren't you?
No,
He,
don't guess I am.
Steve Wright has already been in a couple of other
Oh, is
videos.
he the
He's
one with the one leg
Yeah,
yeah, okay,
yeah,
yeah,
and
yeah. I know who
had
you're
his
talking.
fingers cut off.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, Navy guy. He was there. Of course, my injury, and I think other than that, I don't really remember too many other people with any type of injury were there. But it was it was people. Well, I take that back. There was people there that who were recovering from alcohol abuse. Uh, there was people there that were recovering from mental anguish. So, I don't want to downplay the significance of that.
Yeah.
So yeah, there was different people there with different limb abilities.
Well, man, I'm really looking forward to it coming out and doing some of the workouts. The Warrior's Purpose. So that's going to be a neat thing when they finally release it.
Yeah, yeah, and like I said, I'm hoping that it's sooner than later. It's just it's such a cool thing. It really is.
Well, now what about friendships formed from that group that group of veterans all went to the PC?
There's some. a group of us that we don't necessarily stay in contact every day, but Tanya Bennett, she lives out in Colorado. She she'll post something and I'll make a joke about it, and we'll do like there's a little dark humor on different things, something that vets would probably only get. A normal person would look at that and say, "Man, did you really just say that?" But her and some other people, um, you know, we're we're always saying hello to each other or congratulations on this and that, but uh, you know, uh, Scott French and I, we communicate pretty regularly. But yeah, I, I I I feel like it's a friendship that will always be there with those people. I don't want to say that I talk to them every day. I don't. I'm not gonna lie or lead people on to say, yeah, oh yeah, well, we had this experience, this 4-day experience, and now I'm your lifelong friend. But it that that friendship is there, and I think it's probably more because we are collectively veterans, and than more than if it was just 10 people who got selected to go to the PC and do a bunch of videos.
Oh shit, that's cool. Well, now you finally made it home here to the motherland. You got to Texas, and you're doing DDP yoga. I don't know what advice I can give you much more than that. I don't know. You might have reached the peak in life.
I don't think so. I mean, I think I might have put my foot in my mouth with it, with saying that I want to bike across America, but it really is a goal. But you know what? I truly believe that there's always some place to go. You know, there's always uh, there's always something to challenge yourself with, and you know, I continue to see great results with this program. Uh, just like I was saying earlier, where I'm now standing fully erect as opposed to being slightly slumped over. There's always something. I mean, I walk a little better now because my leg's so much stronger. In the thigh area, in the hamstring area. Uh, it's always something to do. There's always some place to go. Always some place to get better at.
What advice would you have for someone who's just starting their journey, just starting out?
Just be patient, man. Be patient and do it. I think too many people try to do too much too soon and expect instant results, and it's not going to work that way. But don't overdo it. Get into the workouts, and if you're if you find something that's like, if you sign up for the beginner program and you find that it's too difficult for you, there's no shame in going backwards. You know, go back to the stand strong. There's nothing wrong with that until you're strong enough to get to the next step. Don't don't put too much pressure on yourself to be the same person that you were when you were a kid. Be the person that you are now.
I like it. I like it. Let me look at my notes. I think I'm running out of questions, man. Let me look at my notes real quick. Um, let's see. Uh, touched on all that, I think. I'm going to ask you something now. I'm going to kind of jump around my notes. You said opiates amplify your pain. That seemed kind of. I made a note of that. That seemed kind of opposite of what I think opiates do. It seems kind of counter. And what did you mean by that? I meant to ask you when we were talking about it.
Well, when I went to the pain management doctor for the BWC for my annual physical,
Yeah.
to make sure everything's still on the up and up and there was no fraud there, whatever. Um, what he was telling me was that by being on a high dose for so long, it when you get opiates into your system like that, it will in fact amplify your your pain levels. It's a phenomenon that they just stumbled across just a few years prior to him telling me that. But in actuality, once once I started to detox and come down off of the opiates, I actually noticed a difference in my pain
Wow.
levels. So it he wasn't trying to bullshit me in any kind of a way. He was telling me the
I'd
truth.
never heard that before. Let's see.
This that particular doctor was his name is Mark Malinowski, and Dr. Malinowski was one of a kind. He wasn't there to try to promote me into doing more drugs or giving you know, even different types of drugs. He was there telling me you don't need this shit. Get off of it before you die, and I'll forever be in his debt.
I have a note here that I want to say a big thank you to Jake Order because um, Jake Order is the guy that messaged me through Facebook Messenger and said I need to take Rob Ramsey's. Bob was it Rob Ramsey's story? I can't remember how. You go by Rob or Bob?
Yes,
Rob. Yeah,
Rob.
I think he said Rob Ramsey's story, and so Jake, I want to thank you very much for pointing out this story to me. I was not familiar with it. So I want to thank Jake for that. And I also want to tell Jake that he is welcome to be interviewed any time that he wants to because I want to hear his story. So,
I'd like to hear that myself.
hey, you nominated Rob, but it's going to be your time in the hot seat at some point, Jake.
Jake's one of a kind. I can assure you of that, and that will be a colorful interview. So yeah, I would probably pay to see that one.
All right, man.
Jake does a.
Go.
I was just going to say real quick. Jake does a lot of work. Jake's not a veteran, but he does a tremendous amount of work for veterans. He's probably the most patriotic guy I've ever met who's not a veteran, and he should be saluted for what he does. He does a lot.
Very cool. Any, I've kept you now for 2 hours and let's see, 40 minutes. Any last parting words of wisdom you want to give out to people?
You know, again, I just want to tell anybody who's out there who's struggling with pain, uh, this shit works. It does. And I'm 61 years old. I'm probably beat up more than anybody you've probably ever met, and it's turned my life around, and it'll turn your life around. Give it a chance.
There can't be a better ringing endorsement of DDP Yoga than that, I can tell you.
If it was, you know, if it was bullshit, I would call it bullshit, but it's not. It it works. You do the work, it'll work for you.
All right, man. I look forward to see your next endurance um, contest that you put yourself through. I can tell you that 100 miles in Wichita Falls in August broke me of further endurance events. That 100 miles broke me. I can tell you that. But I've become a lot. You've become a lot softer, gentler asshole. I've become a lot more softer, gentler in my quest in life. So,
I'm afraid that statement's going to come back to haunt me.
So, but man, Rob, thank you for doing this, for letting me pick your brain, and again, I apologize for all the technical difficulties I had. I wasted your whole weekend trying to get this thing done.
No
So,
issues,
but
brother. No issues at all. I'm
yeah, so I'm
retired.
sorry. And you're down there in the fishing world. It doesn't get much better than Port Isabel if you like to catch specks and redfish in the bay. So you're in the motherland of bay fishing down there in Port Isabel. So I'm jealous of that. I can tell you.
Hey, come on down anytime, brother. I'm always here.
I may take you up on that. Except that the only thing that would keep me is the drive. I'd have to fly down there because it's a long drive. Yeah,
Ride your bike down, bro.
shit. All right, Rob. I appreciate you doing this, man. And I want to let you know it'll come out not tomorrow, but the next Monday is when it'll be put out, and I put it out in podcast form, and so it'll be on. I think it's on most of the podcast feeds, but it will also be on my YouTube page, the Transform with Vance YouTube page. The video will be up there, so there'll be the video, and then there'll be the podcast. So it'll be out, and I'll send you the link when it comes out. But man, I appreciate you doing it, and don't hang up when we stop talking, because when we stop recording, because it's got to finish uploading. So thank you for doing this. Don't hang up. I'll stop the recording, but don't close the window until don't disconnect. But thank you for doing this, man. I appreciate you doing it, and I look forward to seeing where you go next.
Thank you for having me. I'm sure I'll find something.
All right, man. I'll stop the video. Let's see.